Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome you to our Wednesday webinar here at American Business Systems. We certainly appreciate you taking your Wednesday afternoon out for us, and you're in for an incredible treat this afternoon. Some of you may have heard Dr. Rackner on some recorded videos, but for those that are on here live today, you get the privilege of being able to hear from her directly and then ask those questions to her this afternoon so that you can get your questions answered. Let me introduce you who our CEO and founder is here at American Business Systems. That's Patrick Phillips. Patrick is he and his wife started this business well over 26 years ago. We remember the days where you actually had to type out a claim there, but Patrick and his wife got American Business started 26 years ago, and it's still going strong. He is a best-selling author of these books here: How to Reprogram Yourself for Success, The New Thriving Medical Practice, Cash Crunch to Cash Flow, and Wake Up, Live the Life You Love. He was a co-author there, but he's on the editorial board of the Billing and Coding Advantage magazine that comes out so often. And he's also on the advisory board of MIRMA. Now, MIRMA is the organization, the Medical Revenue Management Association of America, that actually certifies you as a certified medical revenue manager. Patrick, I'm going to turn this over to you. I believe you're there, and let's get started with Dr. Rackner here.
Good. Thank you for that introduction, Eric. I appreciate it. And folks, we're going to just head right into this thing. But first, let me just pause just for a moment here to talk directly to you about something very important. You know, sometimes we jump right into these webinars, and I know sometimes we go very fast through a lot of information. But I want to pause and just tell you that, folks, if you're here today looking to break away from your current job situation and be your own boss, I'm assuming that's one of the reasons some of you are here at least, or maybe you're just tired of someone else telling you what to do, you know, and you long to do it yourself. You want to know when you can take a vacation. You know, you set your own income level. Maybe you know that you have the ability to earn more than you're currently earning. And you know that you can work smarter and not harder like you are on your current job, but you've just not found the right business, the perfect vehicle, so to speak, to reach that higher income level. Well, if that's the case, whatever the reason that you're here today, thank you for taking time to listen to me today. First of all, I want to give you some valuable information that will help you make the right decision in starting your own business. My name is Patrick Phillips, as Eric said, and I'm the right person to listen to for the next hour or so, because I've changed the lives of hundreds of people from every possible background and educational status. I've taken people from every walk of life, and I've helped them to fulfill their dream of becoming their own boss. So just for this hour, silence your cell phone, close your email, turn off the TV, close YouTube, put out the cat. You know, do whatever you need to do to focus on what I have to tell you in the next 45 minutes, because this is a very unique webinar in that we actually have a doctor who is going to speak to you on the viability of this business. And that should be important to you. That's why we wanted you to find that question box so you can actually type in questions during the webinar, write directly to Dr. Vicki, and let her speak to you directly from her heart as well. Maybe in the next 45 minutes, you'll just discover how you can make your dreams of starting your own business come true, as we have done that for many, many other people. Maybe you want to travel while you can still enjoy it. Maybe you want to retire earlier than you had planned. Or maybe you want to put your children through college or help some of your loved ones financially. Maybe you want to just build that dream home by the lake, play more golf, or spend more time with your kids or grandkids. Whatever it is that you're looking for, you can achieve it by being in control of your destiny, by owning your own business. Now, here's how. Listen to this statistic. 83% of all wealthy people in the United States got wealthy with the one secret that we're going to be talking to you about in this webinar. Now, it has nothing to do with inheriting wealth. Most people don't have a rich uncle or aunt that's going to leave them millions of dollars. And even if they do, they're probably not their favorite niece or nephew, right? And of course, if you think that you're lucky and will sometime maybe win the lottery, your chances of that happening, folks, are about as good as being struck by lightning in the same spot 7 times in a row. And unless you have the training and the education to be a doctor or lawyer or some other high-earning professional, your best bet is to do what those 83% did to build their wealth. Are you ready? Here's what most wealthy people do to get wealthy. It's very simple. They started and owned their own business. Now, I've started dozens of businesses over the past 50 years or so, but the one business that helped me to make all my dreams come true for me and my family was the business I'm going to talk to you about today, doing billing for doctors. It's that simple. It's a very niche business. You've probably heard of it, but maybe you just never knew anybody personally that had made a lot of money with it. It's a very simple business, and it boils down to this. Excuse me. You'll be helping medical providers in your area to collect more of the revenue that they've earned when seeing their patients. That's it. Yeah. You can help them see more patients. You can help them collect more money from the insurance companies and the government agencies that they bill. And you can help them move their practice to the cloud and honestly thrive in medical practice. Yes, even during this pandemic. Now, here's what that entails. You'll be accessing a cloud-based award-winning software system to submit those claims to the insurance companies and the government agencies. And you'll be helping those doctors get paid more than they're able to collect using their own staff in their own office. Yeah, some doctors do their own billing, but we can help those doctors even more than those who've outsourced it to some other company. You'll not only save those people money, those doctors, but by outsourcing their billing, but you'll also collect a larger percentage of the money that's due to them, and you'll collect it faster than any other company that they might want to use. You'll see we have the ability to do that. Now, we'll get more into how you can do that later in the webinar, of course, but today, with the help of our special guest, Dr. Vicki Rackner, we're going to pull back the curtain on this little known business and tell you how that you can get involved in this business if you want to. I mean, not everybody who wants to be in this business, not everybody can be, follow directions. Not everybody can figure out how to market something like this to doctors. So we're going to show you how we're going to help you do that. But for those of you who have followed my instructions, those people who've we have put through our training and followed our system that we've developed over the last 26 years, these are the people that the entrepreneurs that have gone through our proven training program and become what we call certified medical revenue managers. And they've built their businesses that can bring them all they want out of life. I just hope that you're one of those people and that after you hear what we have to share with you today. Now, let me introduce myself and then I'll introduce our guest and see if she can give you some insight from a doctor's viewpoint as to why this is a viable, profitable, needed business in today's pandemic world. I basically have helped many people to get to that point, and I can help you as well. Let me introduce my guest for today. This is Dr. Vicki Rackner. She's a retired general surgeon, and after helping thousands of patients over the years, she now helps people in organizations that wish to build relationships with doctors. There's all sorts of people who want to connect with doctors, and she just happens to know how to do that. She's the founder of targetingdoctors.com. And as part of the clinical faculty at the University of Washington School of Medicine, she's taught other doctors. And she is the author of over a dozen books that you can find right out there on the internet. She's a respected lecturer and a marketing expert who's been interviewed and had articles published in magazines and interviewed on television programs and radio programs for the last decade or so. And she's invited by doctors groups to speak all across America. She is a fellow of the American College of Surgeons, and she's also the chair and co-founder of the Medical Revenue Management Association of America. So let's see if we can get her to join us from her home in Minnesota. Dr. Rackner, you still with us?
I am. It's such a delight to be with you, Patrick.
Thank you so much for taking time to do this, Dr. Vicki. I've worked with you now for what? I've lost track, 7, 8 years. It's been a while since I first ran across you out there on the internet. I found you there on targetingdoctors.com, and I thought, well, that's exactly what I need. I need some help with helping our licensees to target doctors. And sure enough, we've done a lot of to help those doctors, haven't we?
We sure have. And of course, when we help your licensees and your licensees helps the doctors. That's helping build a community too. So this is something I get really passionate and excited about. You and your licensees do good work. You're making a big difference.
Well, thank you. And a lot of that has been due to your input and the marketing ideas and tools that you've helped develop for our licensees over the past few years. In one of your books, or maybe a speech that you gave, you said the physician's pain is your opportunity. And that sunk in, that physicians really are in pain right now, aren't they? What do you mean by that?
Well, when I wrote those words, we were, of course, in the pre-COVID world. And yes, doctors are smart people, but the big surprise is they're not really very smart about their money or their practice. So we know from surveys that about half of doctors are behind in retirement planning. Most of them really don't think of their practice as a business. And so we doctors can make some choices that might be surprising to people like your licensees who have a business background. But I'll tell you, Patrick, the world has changed radically in the past year. Every year I deliver sort of a state of the union. You know, what's going on in the medical market? What's working? How are people really successfully building relationships with doctors? And I have never seen as radical of a change as I have with this COVID pandemic. The COVID pandemic has really had a profound impact on doctors. I'd be happy to talk more about it. But the bottom line is this: every single one of these changes is like wind in the sails of the licensees. It just makes their job easier. And let me just give you a couple examples. So you might know that if you want to see your doctor, it's easier than ever to see them via a telemedicine visit, right? Doctors are getting used to building relationships online, not just with their patients. They're getting information about how to practice medicine online. So it's easier than ever to engage with them, right? So that's one way. Another way is doctors have a lot of financial pain right now. So think about our major therapeutic intervention for the COVID pandemic. We want to flatten the curve, right? We're all going to be spending Thanksgiving alone. And that's because we want to make sure that the demand for healthcare services does not exceed the supply. Well, these elective cases that are getting shut down, these are the engines that drive profitability of individual medical practices and also larger organizations. So doctors are really looking critically at what do they need to do in order to get more money in their pocket, because you know some doctors have seen 80 to 90% reductions in their income. You know, doctors are looking for, you know, this mailbox money, Patrick, that you and I have been talking about. And they do this as they're sitting on accounts receivables measured in the tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars, just sort of not even knowing that it's there. So this is really a great time to go in and help solve this acute financial pain. And there are doctors out there wondering, should I pull my kids out of private school? You know, how am I going to meet my expenses? The future is uncertain. We know that doctors are going to get back. They're going to get through their backlog. But right now, they need money. They need cash. And most doctors are seeing that the way that they did things 2 years ago is not the way that they're going to do things right now.
Yeah, definitely. Things have changed, haven't they? You wrote a book recently, I'm going to put that slide here on the screen, called The Myth of the Rich Doctor. Tell us why you wrote that book and what does that mean, the myth? Why, aren't doctors rich? Aren't all doctors rich?
Well, I just pulled up the U.S. Department of Labor statistics and I looked at the top earners. A couple of years ago, 9 out of the 10 top earners called themselves doctor. Now, 10 out of the 10 top earners call themselves doctor. So doctors, we are blessed with a high income potential, but we don't have a great relationship with money. And so doctors really have a hard time translating their income potential. Like if they see a patient and bill the insurance company, it's just income potential until that income really comes in. So they have a hard time translating that into true wealth. So I've spoken with hundreds of doctors about their money stories, and I observed some trends. And this book is kind of like me being a cultural anthropologist, reporting what I've seen. And Patrick, if you'd like, you are welcome to put this book in the download section, and people are welcome to read this so that they have a greater insight about doctors and their relationship with money. But the answer is no. Most doctors are not rich. They don't see themselves as rich. But if they get smart people in their life so that they can really harness their revenue potential, they're in a much better position to have the freedom to do what they want to do when they want to do it.
Yeah, if I were a doctor and I was given this book, which I know you use this, and our licensees can use this book in their marketing as well, I would want to at least read through this book, because again, the doctors are thinking to themselves, yes, I thought I was going to make $1 million a year, and I'm not making that now as a doctor, so it was a myth. And I would want to read more about that, especially because your subtitle says, what is the state of your financial health? Well, like you said, most doctors are probably not in real good financial state right now.
Yes, and with some minor tweaks, they can really transform things. So you look at, okay, we all have goals. We all have an idea of where we would like to get to. And Patrick, I just loved what you said at the beginning. It really hit my heart. And life is crazy busy. Like, what are the core things that you can do that are going to make the biggest impact? And, if I were to talk about the top 3, it would be, 1, make sure that doctors ethically and legally minimize their tax burdens, because doctors are way overpaying their taxes because they don't know any better. Number 2 would be collect what you're owed. Most doctors don't really know what's most profitable, really where their money is coming from. They need to get that in. So what licensees do is really important. It transforms lives. We all know that we shouldn't, text and drive, right? It's distracted driving. But there are doctors out there worried about how they're going to pay their mortgage. I think that's distracted doctoring, and it's completely needless. I mean, there's so many opportunities out there that, I get up every morning really excited to think about things that empower doctors to help them make their dreams come true too, and not worrying about money, really growing into their income potential is an important thing that has many, many impacts.
Yeah, and this quote from your book here, by the way, is something that when doctors realize that nationwide they do walk away from a 30% of their income, that should make them stop and think, well, maybe I don't have the right people handling the billing for the insurance companies, or mine would be a whole lot less than that. Ours nationwide, our system that we use for our licensees and that they use for their doctors, it is less than 2%. That is a fact. So that just means that we can take a doctor's, let's say he's billing $100,000 a month and he's only bringing in 70 or 80,000 of that even. If we can get that up to 90,000 a month, that's a big increase, in their revenue. And now let's talk just for a moment too about this time that we're in, because a lot of people are wondering, is this the right time, that I should be starting a new business? So we ran across this article that just came out, look, I guess it's 8 days ago there, November 10th, from NPR, the unexpected boom in the startups. And basically what they're saying is that they were looking at all the new applications for new businesses, and they found that, it was way, way down But about 6 weeks into the pandemic, the numbers started rising and they were going, wait, what's going on here? So in the third quarter of 2020, it's the highest quarter of new applications for new businesses in the United States that they've ever seen. And I think that's because people are realizing at this point that if they're working for somebody else, they're not in charge of their lives, and they need their own business to be able to say that they are in charge of their lives.
I agree with that, Patrick. Then, of course, the question is, what's the prudent business investment like? What business do you want to go into? I mean, you wouldn't want to go into a business that might be outsourced, that might not be here tomorrow. But one thing that's really great about the medical market is that we will never outsource our medical care to India, right? We're always going to need US doctors. Doctors will always need to get paid. So, even during the Great Recession, one of the industries that recovered most quickly was the healthcare industry. So, if you know you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to take that next step and make sure that you're investing in a business that really has growth potential. And fortunately, the healthcare market is one of those.
Yeah, you mentioned before we were on the webinar live, you mentioned to me that if I were starting a business right now, I wouldn't want to start a sandwich shop.
Right.
Or any other business. Think about movie theaters, the travel industry, the hospitality industry. There's just businesses right now that you just would not want to get involved in. But the healthcare industry seems to be, like you said, just booming right now. I mean, I've never seen anything like it, to be honest with you. It's just our licensees are engaging more with doctors than they were even before the pandemic. And I think that's because doctors realize they need help.
They do. Absolutely. And yes, this is just a time of opportunity. By the way, can I tell my own story about my billing? Would that be okay?
Oh, yes. I would love for you to tell people what you decided to do when you were in practice. Yeah.
Right. So I'm trained as a surgeon. And when I got out of my residency, and just to like put the numbers, okay, I got my undergraduate degree and graduated at 20, did some work. Then there's 4 years of medical school. Then for me as a surgeon, 5 years of residency. So I get out of residency and I know I want to go into private practice, but I wasn't quite sure that I really wanted to go out on my own. So I joined another individual. Well, he had been in practice forever. He had one office manager who did, as she described it, everything but the operating. And so I came into the practice and then I started asking questions. Well, exactly like, how do I get paid? How does this work? And not too long after I came, she handed in a resignation. And my partner's wife said, how hard can this billing stuff be? Let me take an afternoon from my tennis games and I'll come in and do your billing. Well, it wasn't too long before we realized like this was not a great idea. And that quarter, instead of taking money out of the practice, we actually had to make an owner investment to pay our quarterly taxes. So we got a temp, and oh, she was so lovely. She would go out into the waiting room and help the little old ladies fill out their paperwork. And we thought, maybe we should hire her. Maybe she would be great full time. But she didn't have any billing experience, so we looked for somebody else. Well, a couple of months later, after she had been in our practice, we got a call from the temp agency, and they said, look, we are so embarrassed, but it turns out that this woman that we sent to your office was a convicted felon for perpetrating Medicare fraud. So this woman who had been out in the waiting room helping the little old ladies with their paperwork, she was probably stealing their identities. So the temp agency said to us, well, look, if you see any billing irregularities, look into it. But it was sort of like, how could we even tell if we had billing irregularities? I mean, things were just totally crazy. And, every doctor wants to know that they can reliably take money out of the practice. So not too much later, I was offered the opportunity to join a multidisciplinary breast team at a second hospital. I did that. I went out on my own. And the first decision that I made is I am going to outsource my billing. I never want to see my cash flow disrupted in that way again. So what did I do? I do what all doctors do. I just went into the cafeteria and I asked other doctors who I respected, hey, what do you do about your billing? And when the same name kept on coming up again and again, I thought, okay, that's my gal. And so, you know, one great thing about working with doctors is we doctors do this, right? If we find out a great resource, we want to share it with other doctors. So like once you get established, once you become like that gal that I hired, doctors will just kind of pass your name around. So there's a great opportunity for tremendous growth that you really don't see in any other industry. And it has to do with the way that doctors are wired.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like it. Our licensees constantly tell me, and I do interviews with licensees, as you know, once they've built their business to a certain point, I find out, how did you do this? And they all tell me the same thing, basically, Patrick, we just did what you taught us to do. We teach them about a dozen different ways to market to doctors. And we picked one, and we went after it and found the first doctor. And then we just did a real good job for that doctor. And a couple of months later, that doctor referred us to our second doctor. And that doctor referred us to another doctor. And it just grows. It's almost organically grown from the referrals. Now, the opposite is true too. You know, word of mouth works both ways. If you do a bad job.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Well,
Absolutely.
I hate that you had that kind of experience, but that's a perfect example, folks, as to why doctors need to outsource their billing. Yes, they can do it internally if they wanted to, but it actually costs them more money. We've done webinars where we explain that in detail. Now, folks, let me just say this. I'm looking at the question box here, and I don't see a lot of questions coming in. So I'm going to encourage you that you have a moment here that's very unique. This is a live webinar, as those of you who are on here know that I've called out your name, and it's your opportunity to ask a real doctor who's been out there in the market, not just as a marketing expert now, but as a medical doctor, to ask her any questions that you want about this business. If you're thinking about getting into this business, put on your thinking cap right now and think, what should I be asking to a doctor? Play like I'm not here. Okay, and that it's just you and Dr. Vicki, and you want to just directly engage with a doctor about, man, is this the right business that I should be in? Now, obviously, Dr. Vicki is on our team, so to speak. She's been working with us for several years now. She knows that it's a viable, good business to be in, but she can also show you some of the pitfalls, like the story she just told you there. So, okay, now I see some questions coming in. So let me do this though. Before I get to one of those, let me see how I can get back to this picture of a book, another book that you wrote, Dr. Vicki. I love this one, and as you know, the licensees who use it in their marketing love it. The New Thriving Medical Practice. Look at this subtitle, folks: How to Get Off the Hamster Wheel, Work Smarter, Not Harder, Generate More Revenue, and Enjoy Greater Career Satisfaction in the Era of the Affordable Care Act. Now, Dr. Vicki, this is important that people realize that some medical practices are not thriving, and this book actually tells them how to thrive.
It does. And again, it's a little embarrassing to kind of be a smart doctor and be so stupid about money. I'll deny that I ever said it, but I'll deny. But this book is really about how to do it. And Patrick, we wrote this together. But here's why this is so important. Okay, it gets down to the 10 laws of physician engagement. Rule number 1 is, if you want to conduct business like doctors, conduct yourself as one, right? The word doctor comes from the Latin root meaning teacher. And so educational marketing, where you're engaging doctors by delivering high value educational content, it works. So I can tell you that there are any number of my clients who are primarily financial services professionals who use these kinds of books that are written by me, in which they have their name in or on the book, as the skeleton to their entire marketing campaign. Because once you have your name on the cover of a book, you're considered an expert, right? You know,
Yeah.
if you think about how we describe an expert, oh, she wrote the book, he wrote the book. So
Yeah.
that's one thing. But there's a second law of physician engagement. There's actually 10 of them, but the most influential person in a doctor's life is another doctor. So I told you how I found my outsourced biller, right? I checked with other doctors because doctors check with doctors. The licensees now have their name associated with another doctor. So they're sort of falling under the umbrella of my influence, my reputation, and my credibility as an entrepreneur and a physician. And this works. This opens doors. I mean, I'm kind of the licensee's secret tool that can help open doors that would be closed to most people.
Yeah, like you said, a doctor seeing this book and then seeing the licensee's name. In this case, we put a fake name there, Susan Smith, down at the bottom. You can see on this book here. That is an example, folks, of how you can utilize this book as a marketing tool to get past the gatekeeper, so to speak, to get right into the hands of the decision maker, the doctor themselves, because I mean, I've had licensees tell me, Dr. Vicki, that they've handed this book to doctors. The doctor sees that their name is in the inside of it there. Their contact information is there at the end of the forward. And they refer to it as their book. You know, they'll call them up and say, hey, I read your book. Well, they didn't write the book. They just wrote the introduction to, you know, to you. But the point is that they now have connected their name with yours as a doctor. And I think it's ingenious, the way you came up with that idea.
Well, thank you, Patrick. And I will just tell you that it puts you just head and shoulders above the competition. You're not even in the same category. Now you are an expert.
Yeah, and we even teach people how to put little sticky tabs on certain pages of the book, highlight different passages in the book, so the doctor doesn't even have to read the book. They literally, when they get this book with those little tabs, they go, you know, I've never seen a book given to me like this, already marked up, and they'll turn and just read the highlighted passages. Some of them have picked up the phone, Dr. Vicki, and called the licensee and said, hey, I flipped through your book, and I think I do need that free practice analysis that you offer in the book. And so they get right engaged with our licensees. One of the comments here from, let's see who this is from. This is from our fan says, the big problem seems like it's the first doctor. And that is right. Everybody is scared when they start a business to get their first client. And so that is a major hurdle. This book helps you overcome that.
Yeah.
Imagine having this book, and other medical billing companies in your area don't have this as a tool. That makes a huge difference there.
It does. Plus, there are ways of getting that first doctor client. And, you know, if you just think for a minute about your social circles, you know, maybe your son plays soccer with the son of an orthopedic surgeon. Maybe you've got a neighbor who's a radiologist. Maybe you've got a cousin who's an OBGYN. And you can just, you know, maybe you're even going to send out holiday cards. You can say, hey, you might not know this about me, but I've got this commitment to serving the doctors who serve the community. If you know any doctors in private practice, have them contact me, because I've got a free book written by a doctor about how to create a thriving medical practice. And like, you could be one email, one Christmas card away from getting your first doctor client. So there are strategies and tactics that will help you do that.
Yeah, Samick is asking the question, how can doctors trust us about giving them their business and helping their business without experience? Well, that's the great thing, is that you don't have to have experience. We, as a company, American Business Systems, have 26 years experience. And so you tie into our network and present yourself as a part of a nationwide network. We are the largest network of medical revenue management people in the entire United States. So same thing with Dr. Vicki. You don't have to be a doctor. You can just associate with a doctor, and that gives you credibility way beyond what you would ever think that you would have.
Right. So I remember once hiring a mentor who always said, what you want to do is you want to take an objective and turn it on its head. So this becomes exactly the reason that they should be working with you. Because if they're your first client, man, you are going to be treating them like VIPs. You're going to turn somersaults to make sure that they get good results. So, you can try that too.
Yeah. Jim is saying, does this apply to dentists as well? We have that question asked a lot, but dentists are just a whole different breed out there. It's a different industry. In fact, the billing is completely different from medical billing. So even though we do have a dental platform that we can introduce our licensees to do billing for dentists, it's just not as big. There's just not as many people that have dental insurance, for example, and dentists don't see near the patients that doctors do. So it's there, but I tell people, look, let us teach you how to go after the low-hanging fruit. That's the doctors in your area. They're the ones that need the help. And then if you run across a dentist, we can help those too, but it's not our main focus, Jim. So that's why. Let's see, this one is the same type of question here or comment from Precious. She says, this business seems to be a lot about trust to get it going. What's the best way to get a pitch to a doctor, since these days people don't answer the phone or respond to a flyer? Well, actually, Precious, you've actually gotten into some of the details of marketing that we've covered in other webinars. Our YouTube channel has a lot of different webinars that cover how we teach you to go in and see the doctors. But Dr. Vicki, in today's world, it's just a matter of basically getting referrals from somebody that knows a doctor.
Yes. So adding links in the chain of trust. So starting where you are and the relationships that you have, and then building out. And so I think about 3 buckets of leads. There are people who already know, like, and trust you. They might not know you in sort of this reinvented phase. And this is really the low-hanging fruit. So the strategy that I just talked about, going to them and saying, hey, look, I am here serving doctors. And remember, everyone wants to support doctors, right? Okay, the second bucket of leads are these power partners, the centers of influence, the people who have long lists of doctors, and the doctor will open up their emails. So for example, I think licensees and financial advisors are great partners. I mean, if you can help a doctor collect more money, that means that that advisor can help the doctor invest that money and make that money grow. So that's a natural fit. And then there are the doctor information seekers. So they're in Facebook groups, they're on LinkedIn, they're going places to get answers to their questions. And the best way to build trust is to add links in the chain of trust, right? But if you want a doctor to trust that you can actually help them, you can show them by helping them, by providing useful resources like this book, providing, little pearls of information that will help improve their condition.
Yeah, and speaking of financial advisors, folks, you're listening to probably, I mean, without a doubt, this is the nation's top expert in working with financial advisors in the United States and connecting them to the medical doctors that are out there. Dr. Vicki has been doing this for, 10 years or a decade at least, and she is the expert. She's written books. She speaks at groups all over the United States of financial advisors. So that's one of the tools that we give to our licensees, is the ability to connect with the financial advisors that are in their area. And it's a mutual thing, right? They want to see the doctor for the financial advisory stuff that they market, and of course the licensees want to market the billing to the doctor. So it works out perfectly.
It does. So you have the same kinds of challenges and the same kinds of opportunities as financial advisors, right? Because what doctors really want is the freedom to do what they want to do when they want to do it. And I would argue that both ABS licensees and financial advisors really have a similar focus. And because the core value proposition is putting more money in the doctor's pocket, and doctors have this dysfunctional relationship with money, understanding what inspires a doctor to take action and using language that will inspire doctors. This is all really important because doctors are not like you. They think differently about their practice. They think differently about money. So having the insider secrets about how to conduct these conversations really can transform the kinds of results that you get.
Yeah, folks, Dr. Vicki has actually done many, many webinars for us. We have all those recorded and posted on our licensee website. Once you've gone through our initial training, you'll have access to all of the webinars she's done that explains in detail what we're talking about here today. Again, in an hour's webinar, we can't go into too much detail, but let me just give you a little glimpse here of one of the tools that we give you and one of the privileges that you have of being an ABS licensee, and that is we actually Dr. Vicki partners with our licensees and writes on her letterhead a letter of introduction to you, specifically you, your name, your company name in your area, so that you can use that for introducing yourself to doctors. Again, it's a matter of overcoming their fear of not knowing who you are and building you up as the expert.
Right.
Yeah. Oh gosh, the questions are coming now. So let me see if I can get to some of these before we have to wrap up. One of the things Jim said is, what about the trend toward consolidation? That is, doctors joining the mega medical groups and hospital organizations. That is a big thing right now. In fact, in the last 5 years or so, that's really been big. And yet, you know, Dr. Vicki, I don't know if you've run into this, but we see doctors now, when their contracts ends with the hospital, coming out of those situations because they want to, again, they wanted to be their own boss. Now they're working for somebody else, having to do what they say, working the hours they say to work, doing what they say to do for the patients. And so they're going back into practice now, private practice.
I absolutely agree, Patrick, and I'm so glad that you asked this question. Okay, let me tell you about what's gone on in the COVID world. So there are a lot of doctors who were in private practice. I mean, when I came out of my residency, about 80% of physicians went into private practice. And then with managed care, things started shifting because doctors were willing to reduce their income to have sort of the security of a paycheck, right? But what's gone on in the COVID pandemic is that security blanket is not here anymore. In the state of Minnesota, the Mayo Clinic is the largest single employer in the state. In April, they projected a $3 billion shortfall for 2020 and responded with across the board pay cuts and furloughs. There are employed physicians who had their contracts terminated. So I think doctors are seeing that that financial security that came with employment really is not there. Temperamentally, I think most doctors would prefer to be in private practice. And now with all of the changes happening in organizations, I'm seeing the opposite trend. I'm seeing more and more doctors who want to leave their employers and break out on their own. Yes, there is consolidation. There's, you know, depending on where you are in the country, there are different trends. But I believe that there will always be a place for doctors who run private practices. I do not think that that will ever go away. And I think what we are about to see is more and more doctors who engage in medicine in a more entrepreneurial, patient-centered way.
Yeah, we've seen that trend as well through our licensees. Of course, we get feedback from people who are out there in the field. Since our company, American Business Systems, we're not in medical billing. We don't compete with our licensees, but we certainly keep our finger in the marketplace through our licensees, and we're seeing that trend is more and more doctors wanting to come out of the groups, get back into private practice, because that's where they have the freedom, the control, the ability to make the kind of income that they want to make that they don't have when they're just an employee basically for somebody else.
Right.
Hey, there's another book that you've written. Folks, we've got all kinds of tools. In fact, there's some that we haven't even released yet to our licensees, Dr. Vicki, as you know. This one is a great one, though. It's called 10 Critical Questions for Physicians in Private Practice. And look at the subtitle, and the single choice that can help your practice to prosper and grow. Boy, if I were a doctor, I'd want to read this book just to know what that single choice is. What is that single choice?
That single choice is outsourcing your billing. It's the best choice that I made. And just spoiler alert, the answers to each of these 10 critical questions is outsource your billing. And it's in a way that's not self-promotional, right? This could have been a brochure, 10 reasons to outsource your billing.
Yeah.
But this sort of starts with the end in mind. Look, if you want to be a successful doctor, here are some things that you need to do. Like, do you know who your ideal patient is? Do you know where the majority of your revenue is coming from, for example? And, it was my outsourced revenue manager who was able to come in with me and go over the reports and say, look, this is where the bulk of your revenue is coming in. And then I could decide, well, how much do I enjoy seeing this kind of patient? And really focus in a strategic way to grow my practice. So that's just one example. But basically, this is your sales brochure. It's not salesy. And Patrick, what kinds of results are licensees getting with this? I haven't heard for a while.
Well, this particular book, we've had a licensee who said that they gave out 3 copies of this book, and the doctors that she gave this to, this was during the pandemic, by the way, they called her up, all 3 of them, and said, I flipped through your book. We teach people how to mark this one up as well, just like the other one. And I think I would like to talk with you. And so she's got appointments and has already met with 2 of those doctors. And she says, I think all 3 of them are going to sign up with me because, again, I position myself as the expert by just having, in this case, her name and contact information printed right there on the back of the book. It's just an amazing thing that people really do associate you with somebody else if you're somehow connected to that person, and in this case, just connected through the book. There's your name right there below the little blurb about Dr. Vicki. So it makes you feel like, well, this person is associated with this doctor, and you are, folks. That's part of why you pay our license fee, is to become associated with Dr. Vicki Rackner. I wanted to address a couple of questions here. Let me first just pause the screen here so they don't get distracted, too much distraction there on the slides. This one's, Trudy says, I have a first cousin who is a physical, I think she meant to put the word therapist, but anyway, a physical therapist in another state. She has a well-established practice owner, has 3 different offices. She's been in business for over 25 years. How does one approach someone like that?
This is the perfect power partner. So the very first thing that you should do, I think, is to thank her and ask her how she's doing, because this is really a difficult time for healthcare professionals. They are dying. I mean, literally, they are dying. So make sure she's okay. Ask what you can do for her and say, look, I am really committed to giving back. Now, every time she sees a patient, it's usually because a doctor has signed an order, right, for physical therapy. And so you can just let her know that you've got these resources available for doctors. Patrick, are any licensees doing billing for physical therapists?
Oh, yes. Yes, that's a big niche, very niche market that people don't even think about. In fact, we've got a list of over probably 6 dozen different specialties that our licensees can do billing for. And this is a big one, yeah.
Okay, so I wouldn't necessarily pitch my cousin, right? But I might ask for a few minutes of your time. Look, I'm really curious. How are things going for you? How are things going in your practice? What is the single biggest challenge that you face? And again, spoiler alert, my guess is that it's going to be something financial. And so if you can go in really understanding what some of the challenges are, that will inform the way that you craft your message. Because if you can use their language and create a letter, do you stay up at night worrying about, well, you're not alone. But the good news is that there are some solutions. So I would not be anxious about making sales, but I would just go out into the markets with a spirit of curiosity, what's really going on. Ask yourself, do I want to work with physical therapists? Personally, I'm so glad to hear that you can serve them, because they are a great group. There are physical therapists who run 7-figure practices. So it's a great little niche.
Yeah, Trudy makes it clear that she typed the word physical and she meant physician. This is just a physician. So Trudy, again, since she's been in practice for 25 years, has 3 offices, a perfect example of approaching her as a friend and saying, I've got into this business. Please tell me a little bit about where you're at and what you think is really needed out there in the marketplace. In other words, ask her for her advice. Doctors love to give advice based on what they know, and it may be that she has not gotten her billing as under control as you think it is. You won't know unless you ask, and share one of the books with her.
So I'm in this mastermind about digital marketing, and there's a surgeon, another surgeon in there, right? She wants to launch this business about supporting women through menopause. So we sat down for dinner together at a meeting, and she told me that she has $1 million in her accounts receivable,
$1
right?
million.
$1
Wow.
million.
How did she get to that point?
The striking part for me is obviously this is somebody with a business mindset. I mean, here she is in a mastermind about how to grow this business.
Yeah.
And yet she didn't apply some of these core business principles in her practice. So I promise you that you will be surprised at what you see. I also want to let you know that just saying to doctors flat out, can I ask for your help, is not an admission of a weakness. It's actually something that can serve you well, because we doctors want to help. Like if you go to your cousin and say, would you be willing to help me? Doctors
Right.
can't say no to requests for help. So
Yeah.
keep that in mind, both,
Yeah.
as you're in the exploratory phase and, if you do go into a doctor-friendly practice.
Yeah. Trudy, I also asked, how would one go about getting a mentor? Well, we just happen to have licensees that are willing to work with you. We call them coaches. But Trudy, we have licensees from coast to coast that we, as a company, actually pay them for their time to mentor and coach other people like yourself. So that's it's just all a part of our package. Yeah. Um, Kiona says, what do you think is the hardest part of medical billing? Kiona, I can only tell you what my experience has been and my wife when we were doing medical billing, and that is following basically a system and not deviating from that. So that's why we call ourselves American Business Systems, because we've developed that system over the last 26 years. All you have to do is follow that step by step. It's not that it's an easy business. It's a simple business, though, if you can follow directions. And we got people from coast to coast who have proven that they can do that, of course. Wow, we got 5 minutes left here. Let's see. One is a question here is Samick says, how much doctors pay you for the services? Dr. Vicki, did you pay like a percentage of the money that was collected for you? Yeah.
I did.
So Samick, that's how our licensees, most of them, charge a percentage, generally speaking 5 to 8%, depending on the doctor, the specialty, the volume. We can help you with that pricing, but you get a percentage of everything that you've collected for the doctor. That's a real incentive for you to collect as much as you can, right?
And that is a big selling point, because remember, if they're keeping their billing in-house, the person who does their billing is going to get paid the same, whether or not she really collects things. And in fact, what person is going to go to the doctor and say, look, I'm really having a problem collecting? It's just there's not an alignment of benefits. So it just really makes sense to outsource it to somebody who has skin in the game. I mean, when I'm building business relationships, I'm always looking for win-wins. I want everyone to be shooting towards the same goal and to be rewarded for achieving them.
Right. Deborah says, can you have clients outside of your state? Yes, Deborah, you can bill for doctors in any state in the whole United States. In fact, one of our instructors who you might engage with if you got involved with us, she has a practice, a billing practice up in the Arizona area. She has clients from coast to coast, and she says, I haven't seen most of them. It's all done through referrals and through the internet. Of course, you can do everything now virtually. So yes, you can bill this as big as you want.
And now that doctors are connecting virtually, this is easier than ever. One thing
Yeah.
that I do want to alert you is that Medicare and Medicaid are administered on a state-by-state basis. So, there are going to be some tweaks between one state and another state.
Yes. And Deborah's also asking about how can I find out who the competition is in my area? Deborah, that's a question you probably ought to ask to your ABS representative, whoever you've been, corresponding with to come to this webinar about. But they can give you some details about that. What kind of competition there really is out there. There are other companies, of course, who are doing medical billing for doctors in your area, probably. And your biggest competition is the doctors themselves who think that they can do it better internally. So we, again, after 26 years, we kind of know how to deal with all those questions and challenges. I put this slide up because folks, Dr. Vicki has helped us realize that doctors sometimes are not willing to talk to you specifically about their billing, but they have other challenges in their practice. And so we have added other services that you can offer to doctors. And one of them is the one in the bottom right-hand corner there, telemedicine. Dr. Vicki, this is really big right now because of the pandemic, isn't it?
It sure is. So I can tell you that there are, telemedicine has been around for forever. The reason that the technology has not been embraced more fully up to now is the doctors didn't know how they were going to get paid. But in the COVID pandemic, insurance companies have decided, yes, we will pay for these visits. So there has been an explosion. I can tell you that I spoke with a neurologist who is going 100% telemedicine. Like, he closed down his office. Everything is from home now. This is huge. And so doctors know that they can generate a revenue stream by it. They know that many patients want to do it. So this is just kind of a win-win solution.
Yes, and folks, you just happen to be on a webinar this week that 2 days from now, for our licensees from coast to coast, we're doing a webinar introducing the telehealth services that allow you to help the doctor do what's called virtual care. One of those things is remote patient monitoring. Medicare and insurance companies will pay the doctor for doing remote patient monitoring, which means they can monitor the patients through telehealth, through virtual visits with telehealth, and pay them for that monitoring. And one of the things we're going to be introducing Friday on our webinar to our licensees is a way to show the doctors a model where they can actually bring in thousands of dollars a month without doing anything special other than having someone in their office help with the patients and do the monitoring. It's a Medicare approved way of helping the doctors to get more involved in this telehealth thing. Dr. Vicki, I know that you had other things that were coming up here on the hour, so I'm going to let you go. I'm going to wrap it up here by answering any other questions that are on here. Thank you so much for your time today. This has been a real blessing to have you share your knowledge and insight into this business with our prospective licensees that are on here today. Thank you.
It is my pleasure, but can you close your ears so I can say one thing before I go?
Okay, ready, go.
So one of the things that I've realized in my years of entrepreneurship is you want to pay really, really close attention to your partners, the people that you work with, the people you get advice from, because believe it or not, there are some people out there who are not what they represent themselves to be. And I will tell you that Patrick and ABS, they're the real deal. And it's always such an honor to be able to find people who have the right intention and who actually do what they say they're going to do. So, Patrick, you shouldn't have heard that, but in case you did, thank you for your integrity.
Well, the feeling is mutual, as you know. Again, we've been associated now for several years, and that's because I think we both do what we say we're going to do,
Yeah. All right.
Well, thanks again.
My pleasure. Best of luck, everyone. I hope you achieve business success. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, folks, I have so much more that I could be sharing with you, But we got to get down to our money back guarantee. Now, somebody asked about here about, are we going to talk about getting started, costs for getting started, Jim? It could be that you've not been, at our website long enough or engaged with us as a company long enough to realize that we don't do a lot of selling on these webinars. We do have a great training program though, and support package that's available to people. It's like a franchise. There is an upfront fee of about $28,000. That is for the training, support, and the marketing materials and the connection with Dr. Vicki. That's all included in your package, of course, and it's a one-time, lifetime fee. There are no other fees or costs to us as a company that you would ever pay beyond that. So again, it's like opening a sandwich shop. You're going to pay a franchise fee up front for that, but that's all we have. We don't have anything else. We make money on the back end on some of those ancillary products and programs that I mentioned earlier, but beyond that, you don't ever pay us anything extra for that. And yes, let's see, one question from Muscan was, are we only targeting private practitioners? Yes, that is your primary market, although again, many of our licensees have signed up bigger groups. We don't recommend that as your first client. You want to start small and learn and learn the business. So we can help you with some of those bigger groups and practices that are out there, but that's probably not the best bet to go after them the very first thing. Okay, so let's talk about this money back guarantee. Let me put that up on the screen so you can see it, folks. We're the only company that I know of that offers a money back guarantee. That's 100% of your money back if you go through our training, and you can get that done, by the way, within a couple of weeks or 30 days at the most, because it's set according to your schedule, done one-on-one with our trained, certified instructors through this type of technology. You're on there with them, asking all the questions you want directly to that one person. It's just you and them, and you can get through that in a 30-day period. And if at the end of that 30 days you're not happy with what you've seen, just ask for your money back. That's that simple. All right, let's see. What else do I need to talk about? Oh, here's the steps you need to take if you haven't already. If you're interested in our business, folks, that's very simple. First, look over our downloadable guide. Now, here's what that looks like. It's filled with information that you would not get. This is the table of contents coming up here on the screen. There's lots of information about the specialties that you can bill for. You can also, of course, hear and read testimonials from medical providers. You can also, let's see, get professionally designed website information, because we include that as a part of your package. We have an outline of our live training agenda. There's 8 modules that you'll be able to read more about there. We talk about each one of the services and how much money you can make in this document. And of course, you can read some licensee testimonials as well. So be sure and ask for the downloadable medical revenue management research guide. You can just use the words research guide. That's your first step. Your second step is to browse our YouTube channel. This is what it looks like out there on YouTube. There are literally, well, over 150, I think, at this point, videos that you can watch. We've been putting stuff out there for the past 7 or 8 years. It's youtube.com/whyabs. Just go out there and research and look a little bit about that. Then ask your ABS rep for an owner reference list. That's a list of actual people that you can talk to that are licensees of ours that have will take your phone call from coast to coast. Ask for a live demo of our online iClaim system. This is the billing software. Since it's in the cloud, we don't send you a CD as a demo. We let you actually go through with us one-on-one. It takes about half an hour or so, and we can answer all your questions about our software. If you haven't seen that, you need to for sure. And then lock in your first training session. Folks, these are done again with our certified trainers, people who've actually gone through our training, built their own business. They're very successful already, and they teach you how to build your own business. That's because there is no competition amongst our licensees. It's all one big happy family, and we don't consider that there's just too many doctors out there to be competitive. By the way, it is a certified medical revenue instructor, medical revenue manager instructor who does the training for you. They have a minimum of 2 years teaching experience and 5 years experience running their own medical billing business. There are 8 modules, 60 to 90 minutes apiece. There are homework assignments for a deeper dive. after each session. And you can have one additional attendee. No matter where they're at in the United States, they can attend this training with you at no additional cost. So if you have a partner or a spouse, there are unlimited questions that you can ask to that instructor. Again, it's just you and them, so there's not a classroom full of people asking questions. And of course, after that, you have lifetime support from us. So folks, we've done everything we can to make this as a complete a package as possible. Again, after doing this for 26 years, we'll be here another 26 years at least, training and supporting our people. And then you get access to our private licensee support website, which has dozens of hours of additional training. In fact, it's over 100 additional training modules that are on that site. You get access to that as soon as you finish the initial training. There are dozens of forms and agreements and handouts and marketing materials that you'll have access to as well. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up for today. Thank you for being a part of our webinar today.